Welcome to Leading for Life Stories Season 4. I'm Bob Judson. I'm the host for this podcast, and thank you very, very much indeed for joining me. Whether you're a new joiner or a seasoned listener, then I really, really hope you enjoy the mix of content that we provide. The personal stories, the thematic episodes, and of course, the fantastic guest interviews. If you've been with me since the beginning, then I'm enormously grateful for your loyalty and thank you so much. If you're relatively new to the show, then I really hope you like it and I hope you find all of it interesting and some of it hopefully useful to you. Please subscribe on whichever channel it is you're using, whether it's YouTube, whether it's a podcast platform. That really helps us boost the show and get it over the hills on the algorithms. So if you can do that for me, I would be enormously grateful. But without further ado, let's go. Welcome back, everyone. My guest this week is Marianne Withers. Marianne is the founder and director of her own consultancy, Withers Jones, and she's got one of the most diverse and entrepreneurial kind of CVs of anybody I've seen, to be honest, and anybody I've had on the podcast, because when you look through her LinkedIn profile, which I encourage you to do, you'll see just an absolutely amazing set of different roles. And these days, she's an entrepreneur in residence at the University of Portsmouth, which was a novelty on me. I'd never heard of anybody being an entrepreneur in residence. I've heard of artists in residence. And she explains that on the show. She's also a business partner at a company called Atombit, and she'll explain a little bit more about that as well. And goes through her life story. And I think it's really fascinating to get her perspectives on lots of different things. So I'm not going to spoil it. I'll let her do the talking because it all comes over in that. And I really hope you enjoy it. Off we go. Marianne, welcome to the podcast. Thank you very, very much indeed for joining. I'm really delighted. Looking forward to what I think will be a really interesting conversation with you.
Cool. Thank you very much. Actually, Bob, it is lovely to be here on this Friday morning. So shall we get on?
Yeah, absolutely. Delighted to do that. I mean, diverse doesn't really begin to describe your career profile looking you up. But you've done a myriad of different things, and I think that's really interesting. And it's going to be fascinating to dive in a bit more detail into some of those. But just to get us started, could you give us a summary of your kind of journey and set the scene a bit?
To be honest, I think it all kind of started when I was about 5. That the fact is that I've just always had a really curious mind and always wanted to solve things and help people. So if anyone had a problem or anyone wanted something when I was in school, they used to come to me because it'd be like, well, she'll just answer that or she'll get that for you. Don't worry about it. That would be it. And so that kind of went into my profession, and I decided for some reason at the age of 18, after supposedly going to have a glorious future, I don't know, as my geography teacher told me, as a senior lecturer in geography, that I decided to kind of leave school and not go to university. And so then got into the council. So, and again, when I worked for the council, it would be, can you do this? And I looked at things very, very differently. And even senior people who weren't able to do something, they'd ask me, and I just go, "Oh right, but if you could do that," and, to me, it kind of seemed quite simple, and kind of that started just to follow me through what I did. And I worked for the council for so long, but then just went, I can't work for them.
Is that the council where you live, Marianne, or which council?
That was Cardiff.
Okay.
I worked for the housing department for quite a while, but my kind of thought was, and I apologise to the really good people who work in councils and work hard, but back then, all I kept thinking was I could get rid of half the people and make the other half more efficient. And I found it really quite difficult. You go off to the library to do some research, and the people that were in the corridor that were chatting, an hour later when you came back, they were still chatting about just everyday life and not working. And I just found that really difficult to kind of deal with. So I decided to leave and go into private company. And I joined a company called Golly Slater, who were marketing, advertising, public relations, recruitment kind of advertising. And they had a telemarketing company, and I joined them. And then that kind of started, the whole kind of career move, because I was on the phones for about only 6 months and then made a supervisor. Because again, I turned around projects for them that they thought were going to be very, very difficult, and the clients really liked me. So then it was about helping lead others, and I would just naturally help. So there has been just the progression of very curious, being able to balance people and tech, and the whole operational element throughout kind of my whole career. And you say it's very diverse, and mainly because I've not applied for a role for about 40 years.
Wow.
What's happened throughout my time is that people have gone to me, can you have a look at this for me? And so I've gone and worked for them. Actually, I think the one I applied for was Sitel up in Stratford. And that was the weirdest interview that I did, because I went there and I spent about 2 hours, and an hour and a quarter of it we talked rugby and cricket, and then the rest of it we talked about some things, and then I got a call back going to me, can you meet us this place, we really want to talk to you further. So yeah, I just get asked, can you look at this, can you sort this out? And then, as I say, I'd end up either going working permanent for them, or again, when I went into consultancy full time, it was again, we have a problem. A lot of the time was we've already had a consultant, and let's say things have not gone the way they should have. Can you come and have a look at it? And so I come in and I'd have a look at it and go, right, well, okay, well, that's all missing. That's going to cause major problems. And then give them a synopsis and an idea of a solution. And they go, right, yeah, just can you get on with it, Marianne? And so again, it's like I did the big consultancy down in Devon for a leading ceramic tile company that wanted full transformation of all of their telephony, their CRM, and this included they wanted to make their contact centers state of the art. They wanted to have a look at the whole digital kind of platform of their logistics as well. So I put in the consultancy piece, and did all the consultancy, did the work, and then put it forward to them. And then they kind of went, well, will you join us to do it all? And so then I go and join them for 4.5 years. So it's been quite like that. So that's why it's very diverse. And my diversity in market sector, I've probably done every market sector that you can actually think of. And I was talking to someone about this the other day, because a project that we did in Golly Slater years ago was selling wire mesh. And someone said to me, well, who uses wire mesh? And I went, every single company that has baskets and trolleys.
Mm-hmm.
And they went, oh, right. I went, yeah, there's quite a lot of them, isn't it?
You don't think about these sorts of things, do you? Some of these real basic commodities that obviously are vital to to everyday life. Yeah, so that makes absolute sense.
And Golly Slater then made it really quite diverse, because we were a small boutique telemarketing with about 60, 70 people, but we had really amazing clients because of our ad agency and our marketing company and PR. So we did a lot of work for them. So I got involved with not kind of just the telemarketing part, but the full end-to-end marketing and advertising part. So really understanding the total journey and what is important at every single element. And because we weren't huge, as initially ops manager, I was responsible for recruitment, for training, for IT. You know, everyone kind of reported into me, but the kind of business development was the chairman, well, managing director at the time, Wendy Bailey. So I actually worked for them for a while, then went off and did kind of big with Sitel, um, and was given a site of 225 to look after, and it had been left in 37%, well, minus 37% gross margin. It was an outsourcer, and Sitel had taken over Merit Direct and Decisions. And well, they'd merged the year before, and then they took over about a month after I got there. And I took over the site and the Banbury one, because they then had 5 sites in the UK, and turned it around because people were in the wrong place. The recruitment strategy was not correct. The HR relationship and people relationship was not good. There were so many simple things to kind of take apart. But again, it's actually looking about the diversity of being able to look at all the different elements. And within 5 months, we turned it from minus 37% to plus 35% gross margin.
Yeah, well done.
So,
I mean, is it fair to say then that most of these roles, what you've done is you've kind of started in a kind of consultancy frame, going in, and then you've actually they've then brought you in as full time for a period, and that's why you've then moved on subsequently to go
yeah,
do something else. And have
yeah.
you moved on largely then because you've kind of completed what you were doing, and you wanted to move, and that was just you kind of got itchy feet and wanted to move on to something else, or what's driven the moves?
Normal moves a lot of time, yeah, it's been about what, 3 years or something like that. So I've done everything and implemented. Being honest, I get bored.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, when I look back at the military life, we pretty much did a job for 2.5, 3 years and then moved on. And interestingly, when I then left the Air Force after a long period of time, went to Deloitte, I had the same thing. Sort of 3 years in, I was going, well, okay, what am I going to do next? And I just had that kind of, I was in that rhythm. So I guess if you're in that from early on, then it's inevitably that's going to
Yeah,
drive that.
and it's again, I think well, we all can look at how everyone's brains works. My brain will work on the fact of that I will probably have 12 things open at once, and I won't be the person that will complete that one before going on to something else. Is I can actually balance in between all the different kind of things, and they all get done within the times that they're supposed to do. If I constantly did just one thing and then moved on to another again, I'd be quite bored. And I think it's why I also absolutely adored outsourcing and BPO is, because you're in a position, you've got loads of clients and there can be all different types of work. And that always really, really excited me. I remember getting told off by my project management team. Well, they were client delivery directors, and so every Friday we used to have a meeting, and I was always specific in my places that anywhere I go, if I was given an office, if there was a rectangle table or a square table, I used to tell them that they needed to take it out and give me a round table. Um, because the whole point of when we had the meetings, there was not allowed to be any hierarchy or anything like that. We were around the table. It was about bringing thoughts together. And one of the guys gave me a name. Okay, he got it wrong, of the wrong kind of historic kind of thing, but it was funny. So they would call me Maid Marian, and I was kind of like, that was Robin Hood, not King Arthur. And they go, yeah, well, it doesn't matter. We'll just call it that too. But that was the whole kind of point around it, is that everyone was equal around the table. And so I then also, because I love kind of making people feel relaxed, that they can just talk to me. And so I used to go, right, okay, you all bring food to this meeting. I said, but picky bits, so everyone can share again. And what we'll do is talk over these things. And there was this one Friday, and I must have been doing that with my fingers on the table or something. And they were like, what's the matter with you? And I went, well, it's really quiet. And they went, well, just enjoy it. And I was like, kind of, yeah, but it's a bit boring, isn't it? There's nothing actually really happening. They were like, Marianne, can you just relax? Just for once.
Is that something you find hard to do then?
Yeah. Because my brain, it goes into kind of over, it doesn't matter what you. I tell you what does relax me, and I get very excited about it, but it does relax me watching cricket.
Right.
I love and I love Test. Because I was brought up on it. My dad was a metallurgist chemist and steelworks. But he played scrum half for a rugby team, well, for the Gaskin British Steel team. And they were in the kind of Mallet Cup book 4 times for winning the Mallet Cup. It was the Cardiff book. And he also played cricket. So, I mean, my first rugby international was when I was 18 months old, that I went to see Wales and France.
Right. What was the result?
Oh, Wales won, of course. Me, I have no idea. I just was sitting on my dad's
I was gonna
shoulder.
say I'd be pretty impressed if you remembered that.
Yeah, no, kind of. It's really weird. You kind of memory wise, is that kicked in was around the age of 5. I think it was because I went into hospital and it was around my birthday to have my tonsils out. So I very, very clearly remembered that I got a vast amount of presents.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, I think that's true for most people, isn't it? I mean, your very early years, you don't remember anything, but but it can shape you, but it's
yeah,
subconscious rather than anything else. I mean, just sticking with the diversity thing a minute for a minute. A lot of people in my life have told me over time, particularly when I was transitioning out of the Air Force, and actually since then and all the rest of it, that don't spread bet too much. Do try and focus in on more some area that you become the kind of go-to person on, and you're the expert. You've kind of done the opposite of that. I'm just interested in your reflections on any, if any, challenges you found with that, whether it's there's anything that others should be aware of from what you've done.
it's quite a difficult one because yeah, I've been told by lots and lots of people of that over the years as well. My difficulty around that was more around trying to hone in, that kind of one thing that you should really kind of look at. Um, And I think someone said to me a number of years ago, Marianne, you're just the perfect COO. And so I kind of, okay, that's what you say. But again, my difficulty has been that people have asked me to do things and I will go, yes. So I think it does, I wouldn't suggest to lots of people to do it. I think it is very good to hone in on certain things. But mine, to be honest, I've had an awful lot of thought lately about this because of reopening Withers Jones and looking at what is the focus of the consultancy now. And I know damn well I'll focus it in directly, and it could be for me myself things like fractional roles like COO, but anything to do with ops people and technology, and a lot to do with the kind of leadership side of it. But I know damn well if someone picks up the phone to me and says, Marianne, could you help us with this? I will, well, it's according. I am going to have some associates now who I am very good at going, no, I can't do that. I know a person who can.
Hmm.
And I think that's a difference. I actually can do quite a lot, but I'm very clear on what I don't want to do. And so as an example is I'm not a trainer. I've done I can do guest training, and Sitel actually videoed me because I did training for them many years ago that basically doubled the connection, doubled the conversion of all their boiler care. So they asked me to write it, and I said I can't because I digress far, far, far too much. And so they videoed me instead. Um, so yeah, again, I will have a look at it and go, yes, I could do it. Do I want to do it? No. Do I want to talk it in front of people and guide them and develop them and nurture them? That's different. And then have trainers to do all the kind of education element.
Yeah, it's a really important thing, isn't it? I mean, I think you need, frankly, in whatever you do, you need to recognize what you're good at, what you're not good at, and where you're going to leverage other people's skills and bring in other people, and hopefully not just surround yourself people with people that are the same as you, because that doesn't help either. And so I'm with you 100%. I think no, that's a really important thing
Yeah.
to be able to do. I mean, Withers Jones, you mentioned a minute ago, so that is your consultancy. Obviously, you're
Yeah.
still. I mean, you've obviously got a range of other current roles. Just talk us around those current
Yeah.
roles at the moment, because I'm going to dive into a couple of them in a minute.
Before we do that, can I just go back to the other thing, just as a main point about knowing where your skill set is? When I was the sales director of Adler, the managing director, they sacked their marketing director. It was a global corporate business gifts company, and they sacked their marketing director. In fact, they sacked their last two marketing directors, and they asked me if I would be the marketing director as well as the sales director. And I said, I have no qualifications in marketing. And the managing director went, but you have very, very good thought and insight onto it. But what you can do is lead people. So I said to them, I'll take it and do it, but you have to sign a document that basically says if I can't do it, that you won't sack me because I've told you I have no qualifications in it, even though I've been involved in a lot. So I did do it, and I had a team of 10 marketing managers. And I got them in a room and said to them, right, loads of paper on the wall, put all the really bad things that you've hated about from the last year. And then on the other one, put all the good points of what you think that we should actually do. And they kind of went, really? I said, yeah, anything you want. I said, I want to see your feelings, everything. I want to see your creativity, what inspires you, what your beliefs are, what you're comfortable with, what you're annoyed at or frustrated. And they were like, are you sure? And I went, yeah, absolutely. What's in this room stays in the room. Do that. So it came out and you could see a lot of frustration. Not really, there was some anger, but some frustration. Anyway, shorten the story is that I went, right, okay, I agree with you. Some of the things on there, which was the focus, to me, doesn't seem right, the right thing to do. Like, now go away and come up with what your actual plan and strategy is for the next 6 months. Came and did it. It's absolutely amazing. Said, right, now we're now going to present this to the board. And then they sent it to me, and I went, why are you sending it to me? And they went, well, you'll be presenting it. And I went, no, I won't. You'll be presenting it. I said, I'll be sitting in the back of the room with a big smile on my face, being extremely proud. So we did present it. The board passed it, and we increased sales by 15% over the next 3 months. And then it just went up. So the point is that I can lead people, and I can get people to do amazing things and go above and beyond. And that has been an absolute flow within everything I've done.
Yeah, and it's a key skill, isn't it, in leadership? I mean, I think if you're exactly as you describe, and one of the things that leaps out at me is the empowerment element of that. If you're actually, getting people to do stuff, taking the safety net away from them, getting them to, to then deliver the final product, own the final product, as it were. present it to the board, etc., then that makes them grow in a way that they wouldn't if they were just just tucked behind a little bit. So no, I mean that's we'll come back a little bit to leadership in a minute, but let's just finish this
Okay.
where you are, what you're doing right now, because I think that will set the conditions for some of the other stuff we talk about.
Yeah. So when I sold off my kind of BPO, when the Verity Centre, because I got investment with the ATM group, I then decided to move on. And I opened Withers Jones. Withers Jones has actually been there for the last 5 years. To be honest, I set it up before the Verity Centre about 3 weeks before. And then because a guy, Humphrey Davis, sent me a message going, "What's your focus, Marianne?" I then focused and went, "Yes, I'm going to set up my own BPO." And I went off and did that. So the Verity Centre was in abeyance for a couple of years, well, 4 years until December 2024. And my finish date actually was the 1st of December with ATM Group. And on the 2nd of December, I had two clients, which was really cool, which was Atombit and also the ATM Group. And Atombit, I was to come in and help them with their growth because they were an organization that are building a large kind of consultancy. And what we were about to do is purchase 5 companies. So I worked really, really closely with them to help them build from, well, there was basically the 2 founders, a CMO, and me in December 24 with 4 people. And now it's 200
Wow.
with around a 15 million turnover. Um, yeah, between then and now, we purchased 5 companies. So it was bringing all the 5 companies together. I also had an adoption into the marketing team, even though I wasn't part of the actual marketing team, because the CMO asked me to do a number of things to support them, which was absolutely a great. So again, there's this marketing thing that kind of flows in. And I put on another client as well. And this was just me doing the consultancy at the time. But then April, ATM said, "Come and join them." And as an excitable puppy as I am, I kind of went, "Oh, right, okay." And I've known the president for like 15 years, and I've done a load of consultancy for him. I've done outsourcing for him, and he had offered me a few times before to join his companies, and I've turned him down every time. So I kind of thought, well, I better say yes this time. But again, I would do a number of things, but a big thing was market engagement and and telling the world about Atombit, and I'm quite prevalent on LinkedIn, so I kind of help build them. Their following from in January last year, it was 78, and now it's, I think, nearly 2,500 or something like that.
Wow. Yeah.
Built up a lot of kind of focus on them. And as we grew and putting the people in place, that started more and more of looking at me doing business development. And I kind of said, yeah, again, it's being able to know what you're good at, or actually not what you're good at, what you want to do. If I want to go and do pure business development, I can do it. Do I want to do it? Absolutely not. It's never been my whole life. I can lead. I mean, I was a sales director. I can lead sales teams and that. But to be a hunter for new logos is it's not what gets me out of the bed in the
Hmm.
morning. So I kind of look back now and probably just should have gone, I'll stay as a consultant contractor and help you do all of this. And because then you're kind of working in the background to bring in other clients and that. But I said to them, no, actually, I woke up in the morning one of the days just going, I love them. And they are absolutely great company, wonderful people. But I now don't like what I'm doing anymore. And so that's what I said to them. And some people have said to me, God, I've had messages, and you're very brave. And I kind of, why? And they went, well, you are, 61. And I went, right, thanks. Okay, great. And I said, what does that mean? And when, lots of people are finding it hard and have problems. And I said, it doesn't even come into my head. People work with you and use you if you're relevant.
Mm.
And relevancy matters more than anything. I said, and also, I'm not going to stay in something that I actually don't want to do. And so, yeah, I kind of said, really sorry, but I put a beautiful, I think it was beautiful, and that's, other people did say, post out on LinkedIn, because Atombit are absolutely amazing and do fantastic things. And I will always support them. And that's what I kind of have said. But business development hunter is for a BD person who gets out of in the morning and wants to be a Jack Russell and just go after people. I want to solve things and do marketing.
Yeah, no, it goes back to what we were saying a minute ago. I mean, I think focus on what you're good at, right? And what you enjoy, and if you're not personally satisfied, and it's one I tend to talk to people quite a lot about, my own life, and say I have two criteria that I've used for kind of judging my kind of worth to myself and my organizations, and the one of those is enjoying what I do, and the second one is being content with the reflection that looks back at me in the mirror, and that's much more difficult when you're in senior leadership roles, particularly in the government kind of world, where
Yeah.
you're having to sell things to people that you really don't believe in yourself. That's quite challenging. But and at some point, of course, you cross your own value red lines, and you have to decide, right, okay, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. So I think it is a brave decision to then jump if you don't like it, and not just stick with it. But equally, it's the right decision. It's completely the right decision to to do that. Makes perfect sense. You have, I mean, another of your titles when I looked at your LinkedIn profile is you're the entrepreneur in residence at Portsmouth University. I mean, that's a very intriguing title. What does it mean? What do you do with that? Tell us a bit more.
So, when we opened YCL, it was in Portsmouth, because when I was in the listing company, that was Portsmouth as well. So I've done quite a lot, even though I'm not from here. I've done a lot with Portsmouth, and when I was site director for the listing company with the recruitment companies, I also had a lot of relationship with the uni. So we started getting there. We also got our grant at YCL through the university, because Portsmouth Uni and Southampton Uni were brought together to make the Solent hub, and they used to deal with the European grants, which was absolutely brilliant. So I got to know them hugely well over things. And so when I opened Verity Centre, I was approached for them. And I think there's only about 5 universities in the UK that do this and have entrepreneurs in residence. So what they have is, you agree that you will do a certain number of things for the university free in a year. So I have to do at least 5 things, and it can be lecturing, it can be mentoring. I did a Dragon's Den for their masterclasses. So yeah, it's a number of things that you're there. And what I think I was really proud of, about a month ago, I had an email off them because my 3-year was up. And they thanked me for all the work they did, and they said, would you mind signing up again? Because we really would like you to, if you would. And I went, no, 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 my honour completely. Because every time I've done anything for them, I absolutely adore it because it's again, yeah, I've done work with the students, but I've also done work with the business units. And it's another very intrinsic thing in me, which is if I can do anything to help others have a better life or kind of go above and beyond and to do special things, then that makes me extremely happy.
Yeah, yeah, I understand that completely because that's kind of where I am precisely now. I mean, in terms of stage of life, stage of career, etc., I'm very much in that give back space. It's why I do what I do because I think it's I've learned a lot of stuff. I've got a lot of ideas and experiences that I think are some of which are learned by the hard way, etc. But I mean, are actually useful to other people, and so that's precisely why I do. Whether it's speaking, training, coaching, whatever it happens to be, that's firmly where I am. So no, I
Well,
completely
I
get that.
was talking to a guy on LinkedIn this morning, and he sent me a message to basically ask what he could help me automate to make things quicker. So I sent him my post this morning to do with the final one of it was called CX on the Frontier, Breaking the Rules of Human Engagement, and we've had three. One was the human limit, next one was the machine mind, and then the third one was the new frontier, human-like enterprise. And this one was called It's a Wrap. So it was bringing it all together. So I sent him this, and he sent one back and went, oh my God, you've just made me think, because there was a lot talking about very focused on people and, are people blindly walking into the distance? And actually, companies are starting to have AI strategies, but people strategies and about transition of people and what's going to happen and the new things bringing in that they're not really looking at. He actually went, thank you. You've actually made me really think about this. He said, because he said, we did some automation for someone and we didn't lose someone because someone had left already, but we stopped someone from getting a job because there was no need to do that. And he said, but I didn't think of it in another way that it could be then someone's out of work. And I said, yeah, because what you have to, we're not saying that you shouldn't move forward with AI because I'm having in a geek. I love technology more than anything and will use it as much as possible, but use it in the right place. And this is what we talked about yesterday, which is, the question isn't about what we should automate. It's what should remain with people very,
Hmm.
very clearly. So it's again, even if those tiny things that you can help someone think differently and think more widely about what they're doing, then that's good as well.
No, I totally agree with that. It makes good sense. But I mean, and we could have a whole different discussion about AI. So, and I've done a few podcasts on AI as well. I think that there is there is definitely a feeling. That's my own feeling that lots of people are talking about. It's going to augment the workforce. It's going to make people more efficient. It's going to do that. And you go, yeah, of course it is. And if you're a commercial organization, you're going to look at your top line and your bottom line. And if you can take stuff out of the top line to increase the bottom line, you're going to do that. And people are going to
Yeah,
lose jobs simply because they are no longer required. The problem that generates is, how do you then train people, get them the right experience and so on to do the more senior roles that are still required? But I think there is a degree of government naivety in some of this as well, in terms of where it's actually going. It's a bit like
yeah,
trying to control it, as is inevitably, but it's another very active discussion when it's in the hands of corporations who are looking to make money, a lot of money out of
yeah.
doing this. Countries who are looking to use it for their own advantage. And we see that in the States recently with Trump's actions, specifically around what can and can't be, exported from an AI point of view, etc. So I think that this, I mean, it's a topic that's going to go on for a long time as a sort of key discussion
Okay.
topic.
Every
The pace is moving
conversation,
faster.
yeah, every conversation that I've had with anyone or any debates or any seminars, everything is about, it's going to get smarter, it's going to get better, it's going to get good, but it's always about the good side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is part of what we were doing, is actually going, no, we need to talk about the reality. We can't sleepwalk into this. We just need to talk. What about the education of people in school? My husband asked me a great question about 2 weeks ago when we were discussing. He went, so our granddaughter, Mia's 3 months old. What's her career in the future? Such a simplistic question. And, it's so, and I do agree with you completely when looking at the government. The government aren't even thinking about the fact of what we should be doing, and we need to be doing it now, not in 2 years, 3 years, or whatever. But what are the different things that we're putting into schools to teach people to go into now new types of work? Because otherwise, we're going to have a whole displaced group of people.
Mm-hmm.
But also, there's the bad side of it. I was reading an article the other day about the billions of fraud debt.
Mm-hmm.
It's not debt, but fraud. So basically, we have good people in this world and we have bad people in this world. And the bad people will take the AI and do bad things.
Yeah, and probably do it ahead of the good people, because that's what always happens, because they've got the ability to do that. They can throw money at the problem. I agree. I mean, I think on your education point, interestingly, I did a podcast. It was just released as we record this. It was released a couple of weeks ago with a lady called Emily Stone, and she is a Deloitte Bright Start degree apprentice. So that means she left straight from school. She's working for Deloitte, doing a degree while she's actually working for Deloitte. And we talked about AI. And she said the interesting thing is, at school, we were really not, enabled with it at all, because we weren't allowed to use it, because of course you're not allowed to use it in terms of your own studies, because it's deemed that you're then as influencing what you're producing as a product. Well, we've got to get past that. We've got to get to a position where we're teaching children in schools and adults at university how to use it properly, how to get the best out of it, and not turn around and letting them collide with it when actually they get into the workplace, because that's crazy. No, I completely agree. I think it's one of those full-on minefields that is is going to be a challenge for a long time to come yet.
Well,
Sure.
yeah, and I think that organisations have got a big problem in the way of introducing it. And again, going on to it was a big point discussed yesterday about the education of, the actual people within organisations. They're sticking in things like AI and going, oh, here's Copilot, but not actually showing them how to use it properly. And one of the questions we asked yesterday, well, I threw a kind of curveball question through. It was all about the fact of, when do people stop checking and just throw out what AI has told them?
No, well, that's already happening. I mean, there've been several major corporate foul ups, very public ones, of exactly that, where the quality control hasn't been there. They produce documents that are actually based on nothing, and it's been produced by AI, and it's garbage. And I think that's definitely a factor, and I think that's obviously partly why schools and universities are taking the stance they are at the moment. But I think that is very ostrich-like. I think it's burying our heads in the sand about it. This is coming. It's how we deal with it and how we get it to the right place that's going to make a difference.
And it's about teaching. I think you're totally right, of taking kind of youngsters, and it's about teaching them the mindset and the philosophy around how to use it. And the fact is that, yes, absolutely, research on it, ask it to write things and that type of thing. But what you should be doing is clearly, for the governance side of it, going through it, adding, kind of you into it as well, but also double checking every point. Because I know damn well, I've played with it and I test it all the time. And I'll have it write something, and then I will go, oh, well, I'm not sure about that. I think we should go this way. And Chad comes back, goes, yes, of course you're right.
Yeah, it does. It just agrees with you. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I think interestingly, another, before we move off this, because we must, I think I was listening again to a session that I was facilitating the other day, where the conversation was about the National Health Service in the UK increasingly using a voice recognition system for patient diagnostics, and a lot of surgeons, and they're really actively encouraging this to turn around and basically have these appointments. They're doing, and that is feeding the machine, if you like, with you know, all your health issues that you're dealing with, and then they're using that to connect directly with you because obviously it is you. Well, of course, it doesn't take the brains of a rocket scientist to realize that actually that can be misused as well. You know, that's now your voice, because at the same time you've got, you know, banks and credit card companies, etc., who are turning around and starting to use voice recognition to validate who you are when you ring them up. You know, so I think there's those kind of cross links that are really, really important, and currently, you know, feel to me totally missing, and it concerns me a lot that we're galloping forward into the abyss here without really an idea of where this might lead us. And you know, you have got some very smart people. Stephen Hawking, when he was alive, Elon Musk, obviously, whether you like him or not, he's a pretty smart guy, warning about the risks around real super intelligence, and you know, even agentic AI, where it's starting to take actions and make decisions on its own. This is a thing, you know, and we need to be focused on it and concerned about where does that take us. What are the kind of processes that are going to safeguard all sorts of things? If I look at it back to my old world in defense, I think it's a really, really key issue. Yes, I get that we need things that work at machine speed because that's what our adversaries are going to do, and therefore we have to be able to turn around and deal with that. But we still got to deal with the law of armed conflict and the rules of war, etc.,
Yep.
and make sure we stay legal. And so some of these balancing arguments are where I think there's real dilemmas to be faced with it.
Oh yeah, and I think that's why, and it is the headline for my post, and it was mentioned a few times, is about us sleepwalking into it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that
yeah. I
kind of
think so.
perfectly sums it up with a lot of places.
No, that's a fair description. Hey, let's switch tack because, as I say, there's a rabbit hole we could go down and talk for hours on. But
Yeah, we need to get out of it.
leadership, we already touched on this in terms of what you were talking about with empowerment and so on, and getting people to present to boards when they've done the work and so on. But the podcast centers on leadership. Really, it's at the heart of what I try to do. I'm always interested in individuals' leadership journeys. You know, when they've gone, particularly when they've gone from kind of starting in work to going up to senior roles. You know, or they've observed, as many have as well, other leaders in action across time, and looked at the kind of good, bad, and ugly of that. And I'm just interested in your reflections about what you think's important, what works for you, what you've seen in others that really works, how you've tried to build and shape your own style, what kind of leadership tenets are really important to you. Just you know, a little burst on that.
Yeah. I think a leader, and this is my only opinion, is there's something intrinsic inside a leader to become a leader. I don't think you can train a leader. There is something that can be developed and flourished in the right way. And as I said, from when I was younger, I would be the one I'd organise the family holidays when I was 8 years old. So, you know, it was a natural thing to go, you don't worry about that. I can help and I can do this. And, you know, it was, you get on with doing that because and I'll do this for you. And it was a natural thing that just progressed into work, and where I was asked then to take on kind of more and more different elements, and then started be right, okay, now you can have people. Because in Golly Slater, when, as I say, when I was on the phone, I would spend a lot of time helping the others as well, because whatever targets I had, I hit my targets and smashed them really, really quickly. And so I had time to help other people. And so that's why I was made a supervisor, because I automatically helped the other people and increased their activity. So they kind of went, right, okay, let's get her off the phones and let her start doing it. But it was all kind of, I never went and had any training on this is what you should be with the leadership. I would watch people and understand people. And I had, again, a genuine love of understanding people from when I was tiny, and, you know, really looking at people's foibles and idiosyncrasies and working to them, which is why throughout my whole life, I have normally got IT departments to do things for me that they would never do for other people, because again, it's about understanding the people and being able to talk to them in the right way. And it always used to, I remember in the listing company, when I went back and was a consultant, this was my second stint there, and they used to say to me, how do you even get in to talk to them? Because I'm not joking, the IT department in Portsmouth was on the top floor and the door was locked. Okay? I was allowed in there. No one else was. So the whole point is, how do you get that? So again, it's having that natural ability. I'm also, I think leadership comes down to, in a way, is your persona and the way you are, the way you talk to people. I'm really down to earth. I don't talk flowery. I say it as it is. I'm very honest and open, but always understanding the other person, and having great empathy. So I would spend my time looking around. And you said about, other leaders. So I had a leader in Golly Slater. She was awesome, but so bad at the same time.
In what way? What were they?
Well,
What
she
were the
did threaten to throw me through a window once, but there again, I kind of look back and kind of went, was I just being over cheeky? And and weirdly, and my husband keeps telling me that, and I don't agree with Starside at all, but he goes to me, you're the most balanced person as a Libra, and you'll say something and then go, but on the other hand, so even when she's threatened to put me through the window, I still kind of half blame myself kind of for it.
Yeah, I'm not sure that would wash these days, though, would it? I mean, it's very interesting how, in terms of some of those kind of behaviors, which probably, and it sounds like you did, you kind of write this off as well. Yeah, maybe it was my fault, and then it's just a bit of banter kind of thing. That would not be, I mean, that would be an intolerable thing to do these days. So I think it is very interesting how it's changed and how expectations of people in the workforce have changed, but therefore for leaders, it's really important they're aware of this and they were aware of their own vulnerabilities, I suppose, and potential characteristics that can play out in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And I there's a negative side to that as well, because I do think what it's created is for people in, I mean, you mentioned you're 61, I'm just a little bit older than you. I mean, I think for our kind of age group, it has generated a significant challenge with people walking on eggshells around what they say in the workforce, because they're worried about saying the wrong thing and worried about potentially doing something that's going to turn around and, in the worst instance, create some kind of ethics complaint or whatever, and or even some sort of criminal case. And I think that is not a healthy environment. We need to get back to a place where it's a bit clearer where the boundaries are. People understand where the what the value set is that the company's working with. The individuals need to have. People need to probably also at the other end of that be a bit more tolerant and not so thin-skinned about absolutely everything that happens, because I think that is a real problem in the workforce today at both ends of it. I think there is and it doesn't help. It doesn't make for an easy teamwork. I mean, absolutely, I'm not condoning poor behavior, poor language, inappropriate, sexism, racism, whatever it happens to be, any kind of ism. That's just not on. But there needs to be a level of
understand around circumstances as well. I mean, the one thing I learned is because she was an awesome lady, and I mean, she headed up all the kind of levels for the Thompson groups of newspapers. She used to go and set them up in different parts of the world, and she would train them all. And she trained me on, the best kind of sales and marketing and elements, that I ever probably could have been taught by anyone. She was a great mentor. But what she did do very clearly, but again, because of the type of person I am, She taught me what to do, which was good, but also not what to do. But also to understand, because when that incident happened and she set me through the window, the next day she put me a pair of earrings to apologize.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I found out something, and this is where you never know with things. I was sitting in her office one day, and oh no, I was walking into office, she was on the phone, and I went in, I went, oh, sorry, you're on the phone. She went, no, 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 come sit down. I'm just on the phone a minute. And I heard her on the phone just go, yes, I did say 10,000. And yeah, I'm happy to absolutely to donate that. And I was like, okay. And on the phone, I went, that's a lot of money, Wendy. You know, kind of £10,000 to donate. I said, who was it on the phone? I said, if you don't want to tell me, it doesn't matter. She said it was the police. And I went, well, why were you donating that much money? She said, well, it's to do with drink drivers. And she said, I donate on a regular basis. And I thought, right, don't ask. But she's actually told me. So when her daughter was 13, which I then found out that she would have been exactly the same age as me. Her son met the daughter in school and walked her home with her friend, and a drunk driver went onto the pavement and basically killed them.
Both of them.
Yeah, the son was okay, but he saw the daughter and the daughter's friend being hit in front of him
Oh
by
my
a
God.
car. And so yeah, what I found out was basically, so I would have been exactly the same age. And you know, when something slots into the brain of why she treats you like a certain way, because she did treat me very differently. I was in the restaurant once and I put a knife in my mouth just to take something off. And she wrapped my knuckles with a spoon and said, don't do that. So you then kind of slot it in a way where other people would have then gone, you know, that's assault, you know, that's really, really badly. My thing was, she used to kind of send me to my room and things like that. So she treated me like a daughter
Yeah.
in a way. So again, you know, you have to kind of have the understanding. But I think all of these things then gave me, you know, the ideas to kind of look into things to do with leadership. You know, definitely things not to do, and definitely things that you should do. And then I got into situational leadership and really understanding and learning about that, and that very, very clearly, you know, and I will talk, and I do to many people over the years, is that yes, we're an individual. You know, people will manage teams as teams. Well, one, you can't do that because you've got a bunch of people within that team that are all individuals that have, again, their idiosyncrasies, their nuances, their foibles. And however, they also are made up of all different elements. And like what we talked about earlier, you know, what you're good at and what you're not so good at. So I look very carefully of, if I'm going to lead people, how do I work with them and at what level? So my point is to understand you completely and look at going back to the simplistic thing, direction, guidance, support, and delegation. You know, you could have 10 elements that we're looking at, and 9 of them all fall into delegation. So I can delegate to you, I can trust you, and you're absolutely fantastic. But one of the areas you need support and guidance on. So that's what I'll do and help you until you can get to that area. And I remember being in, was it YCL? And this guy who was from our investment, our parent company, came in to do some work. And he said to me that I was too helpful to people. I mean, up until he came there, we were doing really well and making good profit. And we had the happiest, very kind of high retention, everything. But he said to me, to my senior team, and that I gave them too much time. And he said, and I hated him for this because he told me to give him more rope. And I'm kind of like, no, that's kind of not the words to kind of use. And I said, what are you saying? He said, well, look at Michelle. She's the senior client delivery director. Why does every other day that she need to come in and have a cup of tea with him? And I kind of went, why not? He went, just don't micromanage her. And go, I went, I'm not micromanaging her. She gets on with it. I said, she knocks my door and goes, Marianne, I have a question for you. So I was COO of this place. And I go, all right, Michelle. I went, what's that? And she go, oh, here's the question. I go, well, what do you think you need to do? She would then clearly tell me the answer of what she needed to do. And then she'd go, oh, do you fancy a cup of tea? I'd be like, right, okay, that'd be nice. She'd come in, spend probably 15, 20 minutes having a chat with me about some different things, ask me a couple of things, and then go away. And that was Michelle, and that's what she liked, because 9 elements out of 10 with Michelle, she could do everything. But her one element that she wanted, it wasn't about anything really. It was about some attachment and wanting to be able to chat some things through, even though she knew the answers completely. So it's very much, leadership is so important to know your people, but know them really well, of where you can let them go and where you can support and then help them grow even further.
Yeah, some great points. I couldn't agree more. I think it is very, very people focused. And I mean, go right back to the beginning of what you said. I mean, obviously, I do leadership development training work and so on. So I'm kind of never going to say you can't teach it, but I do think you have to have some sort of spark in
Yeah.
you that you can fan into a flyer. You need, if there are people who frankly are never, and they don't want to, they just don't want to be in a position where they're leading people, and that's fine. I think the mistake though that a lot of companies make is not giving people the right tools and techniques to be able to lead well. Because if
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
if you've naturally got ability, wonderful. And there are people like that, and there are people who do really, really well with minimal training, and they just get on with it, and they turn into really good leaders. There are other people who really do need the help.
Oh no, I agree with you completely there. And again, over the time was it the listening company? Because I went there and we had like initially 550 people, and then the second time there we had 1,100 people. But I spent my time, looking at the development of how you develop them into team leaders and operational people. And I remember there was one lady, absolutely, love her to this day, Kate, who was on the phones, but she had something, and I wasn't sure about what it was exactly. And I said to her, there's a team leader role. And as I said, I was site director at the time. This was the first time I was there. And I went, there's a team leader role, apply for it. Because she was so helpful. Because I joined them as site director from being their client. Um, and while I was the client, she always stood out. And she went to me, oh, no, 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 I can't do that. And I went, I think you'll be really good at it. So I invited her for an interview. And she went to me, I didn't apply. I went, well, you kind of wanted to, but you just won't push. And I said, look, here's the point is, this is the interview date and time. If you really don't want to do it, don't do it. But I believe in you and I think you will be really great. And I
Yeah.
said, I'm going to help develop you. And she did, and she got that. And then as she kind of grew, and she did really, really great, then developed more, she started having this real technical just technicality started coming out more and more, and her telephony thought was really great and creative about things. And in the end, she went into IT, and then she became a telephony manager, and we developed her there. And what was absolutely brilliant is that when I opened YCL in 2011, after a number of months, she kind of joined us in IT manager, and then I made her head of IT. So, it's the fact of being over, and I can look back and, oh my God, all the people who came kind of through me in my in the listening company, and how many of them I know that are all in massive senior roles who started off on the phone to me, and I kind of helped them become team leaders and ops managers and client delivery directors. And that's what leadership is about, is helping those other people do the right thing and grow in the right way, and then develop them to make an outstanding team to give the right and absolute best outcome.
No, I totally
Sorry,
agree.
I get a bit passionate and excited about it.
No, no, no. You make some great points, and I think I'm with you. I mean, I think the people thing is such an important bit, and growing the people, giving them the opportunity occasionally, as you described, giving them a bit of a nudge. They may not actually be quite ready for that, and you push them into it. I think that's entirely a legitimate thing, and so no, some lovely points in there for sure. Um, just switch it back to you personally, just for a minute. There's a few questions I always like to ask, and I mean the first one is we live in a complicated world these days, but I think it's interesting. It's more useful to look at it through today's lens. If you were providing advice to an 18-year-old Marianne entering the world of work now, not looking back at what you wish you'd done, what would you be saying?
Um, Probably go towards design engineering that you were really interested in. It was really weird. I was very good at geography because I was doing geography, geology, and maths A level. So I'm not sure where the design engineering came from, but I always wanted to make things. I think that's why I like Lego so much.
Yeah, no, so that's a fascinating point because interestingly, again, I say this quite often to people, particularly at, when they're asking for a bit of advice and they're still at school or they're at university or whatever. I say, whatever you do stuff you like doing. Particularly if you're, I was talking recently to somebody about A-level choices and do not make the mistake of being persuaded by whichever school you're at to do what they want you to do.
Yeah.
Bluntly, they're in this for the league tables and they're interested in the academic results more than you personally. That might feel a bit harsh to some schools if anybody's listening to that, but I think that is reality. And the other reality, commercial reality, is that no one, and I do mean no one, cares what exams you actually did 5 years after you did them, probably even less than that,
No.
actually. All they care about is that you've got a level of academic attainment. That's either A levels or university or whatever it happens to be that's required for that role. Unless it's a very specific thing, that they're very, very unlikely to be really tied down on what you did. So it's much more important you do stuff you enjoy than stuff you feel you ought to go and do. I had this where the school was trying to persuade me to do maths, physics, and chemistry, and I did maths, physics, and design because I love design. And actually, I did much better at design than I did maths and physics, just because I really enjoyed it. And I wish, with hindsight, that I had actually picked subjects that I enjoyed rather than being pushed
My
into
dad tried to
specific.
push me towards kind of chemistry, and that's why I took geology, because
Mm.
I really enjoyed geology and I was not very good at chemistry. But his kind of thought was, well, he's a metallurgist chemist, so I would automatically be very good at chemistry, and it was kind of like physics, yes, maths, definitely, but chemistry, absolutely not. But something else I think also, if I told my kind of self, I would have probably continued with sport
Mm.
more, because I used to do contemporary dance for Sherman Theatre. I rode for Land of Rowing Club. And if I kind of, was it my real thoughts, probably would never have happened, but I might have guided myself into being a racing driver or playing tennis.
Nice. Yeah. No, I think that's all great tips. What about highs and lows then? So career high point, what's the thing that leaps out for you?
The Verity Centre. Um, so this was the boutique BPO that I opened. I think it was winning our first contract. A lot of people kind of open BPOs, but they all are based on they've got one massive contract already. And they've got investment and they build on that. I started the Verity Centre from absolutely nothing. And so when I won the first client, that has got to be such a high point. And, Shawnee came to work with me, who I'd worked with twice before. Marilyn came as ops manager, who worked with us in YCL as well. And when we won the first project, and I went out to, we ran out to find the frontline agents to do the work, and all people that had worked with us before all joined us. And
Nice. Yeah,
that
very
is
satisfying.
just, yeah, and it was wonderful. And also that our first piece of work, we won, a BPO gave it to us, which is kind of, so they had a project they were doing for a big retail company, and they needed support, because also it was a lot of outbound, and it was to do with schools. And the CEO would ask someone and said, what outsourcer would you use? And this guy kind of went, right, okay, they've only just opened. However, let me tell you about Marianne and her background and everything. And, the amount of outbound I've done is huge, but more obscure stuff, and done lots with schools. So we actually won the project and got to work with this outsourcer who was absolutely wonderful. And they're still around now, which is Lemon Contact Centres, and became good friends with Martin Anderson, the CEO. But it's when we started it, we started with so many people, and when they wanted more, they didn't do it on their site. They gave the more to us. And so, yeah, that always in my mind be kind of absolutely amazing. And the other one was opening a site in Cardiff for Adler, which is a global corporate business gifts company. As we wanted to open, we were in Slough, the head office in the UK, and we wanted to open a big sales centre, even though we had a big sales centre there somewhere else. And the MD wanted, for some reason, to open it in Burton-on-Trent. And I kind of went, is that because your second house is in Burton-on-Trent? And he went, no. And I went, don't think Burton's really the right place for us to do it. Let me look on it. And so when I chose, was it Cardiff, after doing a lot of due diligence, he went, is that because you're from Cardiff? And I kind of went, no, not at all. I said, because it's sort of top on all the due diligence of the right place to actually go. I might know a number of people
Unfortunate
there.
coincidence, though, you have to accept. There is
Yeah, just a
a
coincidence.
yeah.
But again, the opening of that, and I actually took the whole project. So I found the building, did all the negotiation, the decoration, the furniture, everything, recruited all the people. And then for the opening, I had it all done out in all these balloons and everything, with this massive big cake that was all blue and white and had bluebirds on it, because Cardiff City Football Club is bluebirds. And so again, playing to the people, everything, when they all walked through the door, it was just like, whoa, just. And I've got a newspaper cutting still, because my husband came, and our daughter, who was quite young then, and there's a picture in the newspaper about it. So it's just a really wonderful memory. And we opened a site that we ended up putting something like 150 salespeople there, which was absolutely amazing.
No, fantastic. No, there are a couple of great ones there, that's for sure. I mean, sadly, there's always a low points. So, what's the lowest of the low points?
Um, I think it was losing a friend of, he didn't die, but losing a friend of 25 years that I went into business with, and that I thought that he was the most wonderful person and that I believed in him and trusted him. And then when your rose tinted glasses come off and things come out, it's never as simple as you kind of thought. And it'll be with me forever, because it's probably, well, you can see it saddened me so much to lose, because he was my business partner. He was a really good friend, and that is just really, really sad. So that will be and I left YCL. That was January 2021, and then went on to set up the Verity Centre. But yeah, it's something that will always be with me, and can't talk about anything more than that to do with it. But it really upset and saddened me.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. It's horrible when those sorts of things happen, isn't it? But it's because, I mean, it's very easy as well to turn around and say it's just business, it's not personal, and of course everything's personal, to a large degree as well, and it's doubly hurts when you've got a kind of personal connection and those sorts of things, and it goes wrong. So it's very difficult, and I can understand why that would be a low point. On a cheerier note, then, what's the most memorable? There's two questions I always ask at the end of these things. What's the most memorable experience of your professional life? Single thing.
I should say having my daughter, shouldn't I?
No, professional life. Professional life.
Oh, I don't know. Can
That's
we have a
definitely your
point?
personal life.
No, 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 no. I have a point on that, because I was working right up until the minute, and I was writing a report, and I was I was in the office, and I was having contractions, and basically Wendy, who was another Wendy but in the same company, was behind me going, "I think we need to take you to hospital now." And I went, "No, no, no, I need to finish this report." And she went, "Your contractions are about 5 minutes apart. I will have to pull the chair and drag you to the hospital." So I finished the report. I went, "Right, ding, right, send. You can take me to hospital now." And so I went off to hospital, and then everything calmed down. On the Friday morning, I was kind of allowed out, and I rang work and went, "Right, I'll be back in work on Monday." And they're like, "What?" I went, "Yeah, I'll be back in. Totally fine. It's, Braxton Hicks. Nah, it's fine." Next morning, waters broke, had baby. So I didn't. But I went back to work after 6 weeks. And in that 6 weeks, I did actually work from home as well. I also went into the office for a meeting, but before the meeting, I breastfed my daughter in the boardroom and put a sign on the boardroom door going, "Breastfeeding, don't come in." So in a way, it's kind of like,
Yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah, that's fit to professional as well as personal. No, that
yes,
would make sense, and certainly, yeah, you definitely pushed the boundaries
it's
with
very,
yeah.
yeah, I was going to say it's very memorable. But I think one of the memorable times, then again, it was doing what I did with the Verity Centre, because um, it was with all my own money. And then I was making a point as well about kind of like, I keep talking about the way things should be done, and I've gone into companies and I've changed them because of all of this. I mean, that guy I went into business for with, you know, I worked with him at another big company, and he was one of the people who brought me in to help solve lots of kind of problems. And you spend all of your time doing that, and my kind of thing was, well, you basically do it for everyone else. Now do it for yourself totally.
Mm.
Even in YCL, I had 12.5%, and was the COO and kind of a director of the board. Is still a parent company, and so you're always doing it for everyone else. So to actually then go, right, we can build this, and it's about the people I bring in. That is going to matter hugely. Who the team are, because that team is going to produce everything. And it was about the culture. To me, a culture is the foundations, the underpinning of any organization.
Yep, 100%. No, completely agree. And I think it's very important you drink the Kool-Aid as well, isn't it? If you're selling the Kool-Aid to somebody else a lot of the time, you've got to be able to drink it yourself in terms of your own company. No, and the culture piece really stands out. I mean, I think I used to reckon when I was running, RAF bases, for example, or the RAF base that I ran, and then the NATO base that I ran, I could walk around it and if I went to a different section on the base, I could get a good feel within about 5 minutes whether that particular piece was actually being well led or not.
Yes.
Just because you do get that kind of sensory feel as to, and it's not just pure conversations with the people, it's what the state of the place is, what it looks like, the kind of pride in the workplace, all those kind of things all matter. So no, I'm 100% with you on that. I think that's really, really true. Very last question, Marianne, which I always ask people, is what's the most difficult question you've ever been asked?
Did he do it?
Did he do it? Context?
Don't think I can give you the context of that.
All right.
And I didn't want to answer it, but I had to answer and said, yeah, he did. But I can't give you the context, but it was a very, very difficult.
Intriguing. It's like a mystery now that we're going to leave on the end of it, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, challenging if you're faced with a direct question and you have to front up the answer one way or the other, though, isn't it? In terms of, and again, that'll be another people issue for sure. That's there.
Absolutely, and there was another one, and it came from the police, and I think it was on the 24th of December, and I got a phone call from the police, and the question I got asked there was, do you realise who you've got working for you?
Dear.
And I kind of went, it's another one that I can't tell you a huge amount, but I can tell you a little bit, small amount of it. And I kind of went, that kind of when you go, sorry, what was that middle bit again? And they went, are you sitting down? And I went, okay. So I sat down and then they kind of said, I think that we need to have a longer chat on the other side of Christmas. Are you open from now till after Christmas? I said, no, we've closed until after Christmas. Right, okay. I think you need to come and see us the day before you open. Okay. And so they then told me what it was about, sat down, went, oh, crap. And I then rang Adrian, and the first thing I said to him is, so he was my business partner, are you sitting down?
Yeah.
And then told him, and he just there was quite a few hyperboles, and it was like, oh my God. And let's just say I went to the police station and they explained to me who we had there. However, I signed a document that I can never talk about it. And what I've said to so many people have asked me is when I'm about 90 odd and we're sitting around a fire with a glass of wine or something like that, I probably might tell you then because I won't get in trouble at that age. But let's just say it was shocking.
Wow.
And I was just like, oh, holy crap.
Yeah, and it's then how you deal with some of those things as well, isn't it? Yeah, fascinating. Well, there's two mysteries you've left us with at the end, so thanks for that.
You're welcome.
You're going to leave my audience going, I wonder what that was all about then. They'll be looking you up frantically and trying to dig around to find out what the info was. Marianne, thank you very much. You've been really generous with your time. It's been, I loved it. Great conversation. Lots of things we could have talked about in more depth for sure. Really, really appreciate you joining me. Thank you.
No, thank you, Bob. It's been lovely talking with you.
And absolute pleasure. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
I really hope you've enjoyed hearing Marianne talk about her journey, her experiences, the huge variety of different roles she's had, and the kind of capability she's got. I think she's an amazing individual, and it was just a fascinating conversation. If you have enjoyed it, then please share it, please repost it, please comment on it, please ensure you're following or liking and subscribing, whatever is appropriate for the platform you're watching on, because all of that really, really helps in terms of leveraging the podcast up the algorithms, viewing figures, and that would be much appreciated. If you found it very valuable, then please do think about actually doing the financial support piece that will be in the show notes in the either support the show or a direct link to Patreon from my YouTube platform. And you go to patreon.com and you'll find the Leading for Life Stories section in there. And you can be a supporter, a champion, or a patron of the show. And any one of those will make an enormous difference to what I do. So I'd be really, really grateful if you think about that. If you've been subscribing for a while or listening for a while, and you're regularly getting stuff out of the content that's here, do give a bit of thought to. It takes a lot of effort to do this. It's not zero cost. I do it for no cost to anybody. I don't want to go down a subscriber route, but at the same time, I need to try and make sure I get as much value back from it in terms of ROI on the time as I can, and so anything like that'd be great. If you don't mind, that'd be lovely. But as I always say, I'm delighted you're here anyway. Really appreciate that. So thanks so much for joining. Back again with another guest very soon. Take care. Bye now.